Hey everyone, today is Thursday, the 20th of May, 2021. This is The Gap, episode 566. I'm Luke Lawrie. Joab Gory's in here, in bed. How you going, Joab? What are you doing?
Don't say it like that. Jeez, that makes it sound weird. I'm up the coast, trying to get away a little bit. So I went up to Coffs Harbour on the beach. What's fucking cooked about this shit is that I've got better internet here than I do at home in Sydney. I've got like fucking 250 down here. It's ridiculous. The up speeds are garbage, but like it's blitzing.
Yeah, who needs uploads?
Like, fucking, who cares, right? Like, fucking bring it on. I could be downloading. I'm almost rivaling Luke's speeds. Not really.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like
a quarter of the way.
A quarter, yeah. I'm closer than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Hey, listeners, I wanted to tell you something. We do a sync before every podcast, and Luke counts us in. I'm sure you've probably seen the one before where I fucked it up because I forgot to say go. Anyway, one of the things Luke likes to do, and I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or not, is he'll count 3, 2, 1, and then he pauses for like too long, and then he says go, and it fucks me up. And he always does. He'll do like 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. And then on the third one, he goes 3, 2, 1, go. And I'm like fucked on that shit, and it ruins me. And
I don't
do
pause
not
on it because I'm using a timer.
What fucking stitches me up the most about this shit is that like today he's like, oh yeah, what weird. Like I'm the one doing this shit, which is horse shit. Okay, I'm the J.K. Simmons in this shit, and you, what's his face? Whiplash. I don't know. I can't remember his name. I don't know. We'd be a movie podcast if I could remember anyone's fucking names.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, because I go off I go off the seconds in the timestamp track, and so I try and count on the second.
Really?
Yeah. So it's an actual.
Is that just your excuse?
No.
So that you can get away with whatever it is you're doing every goddamn episode to try to throw me off for some reason. Your head games.
Maybe it's just the delay. Like sometimes, like the lag is just a little bit longer. Sometimes I don't know.
Maybe.
All right.
Anyway,
should we belt through this? No. Okay, fair enough.
I just wanted to talk about some movies real quick. Okay, first of all.
Okay. Yes.
The Woman in the Window. Is that the one? Is that what it's called? It's on Netflix. Is that what
you're seeing these days on your travels?
I'm seeing Women from My Window. No.
This is no, I'm thinking of the wrong film, I think. Never mind. Keep going.
It's Amy Adams.
Yep, wasn't the film I was thinking of.
And 2 Captains America. 2 different Captains America are in this.
Spoilers.
I don't think it's spoilers. It's just the cast list.
Okay.
But anyway, I hated this movie. So I assume, based on the fact that you are not giving me anything on this, you haven't seen it yet. I thought this would have been your fucking jam. You love psychological thrillers. You and your wife fucking you froth them, as they say.
When did it come out?
Last week.
Right.
I don't know, last Friday or something. Well, watch it, but it's terrible. That's my opinion. I don't want to explain exactly why, because it's pretty spoiler territory stuff, but it's bad. Yeah. Anyway, that's been Movie Corner.
Okay.
Now it's on Sports Corner. Just real quick before we move on to Games Corner. Sports Corner. Who are you going for in the basketball today, Luke?
Oh, Lakers, of course.
Are ya? No?
Yeah.
Are ya? Are ya? Are ya? Lakers playing the Warriors in the play-ins. And Luke's new favorite team. He's adjusting his camera to show that he's not wearing his Warriors shirt for once in his goddamn life. Doesn't seem to have any Lakers shirts. Only
They're all.
Warriors shirts.
I was going to put it on, but I was like,
You should put on a Lakers jersey and then go to the shops. You're
right.
allowed to go to the shops, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, just try and start some shit.
I mean, here's a bit different. It's not like that. I mean, we're still in California. LA and San Fran are pretty close. Like, I see Lakers hats all the time here and jerseys and things like that. So it's not a. I mean, people in
Hey,
San Francisco aren't starting fights because you're wearing an opposite team, like a rival.
what if you go on the
team.
tram? What if you go on the tram? I mean,
Yeah.
they do it in LA.
Yeah,
I reckon
that's
you get the
different.
shit kicked out of you.
It's not in San
Yeah,
Francisco.
jump on the train if you see anyone with a Warriors hat on, like slap it off their head.
Oh, that'll
like,
get things going. Yeah, make it
right.
spicy.
That's what I'm saying. And then, as soon as they say, they're like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" That's my American accent. You can just talk to them in an Australian accent, and they will be mind blown.
They won't know what
They
I'm
won't.
saying.
They won't. Yeah, they won't know what to do. They'll be like, "Oh shit, I can't do any more American accent. I don't have it in me."
Yeah.
Anyway, video games. So with that in mind, this upcoming basketball game in mind, we also don't have a lot to talk about this week because of weird embargo situations. But also, yeah, we're gonna go watch it. It starts at 12 p.m. noon our time.
What does?
So we've started a bit earlier. The basketball.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep.
You thought I was talking about an embargo or some shit.
Yeah.
That's fair. That makes sense.
It's 7 o'clock.
But yeah. We gotta watch that, right? I'll be going for the Lakers. Luke will be going for the Warriors.
I've
It'll
got
be
my
actually pretty.
San Francisco jersey on under the Lakers one. That way, if they just rip it off, and you're like,
Yeah, like yeah. You playing both sides, so you always come out on top.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, video games. What are we going to kick off with? I can't. I'm on a laptop.
Let's kick off with the sports. Let's go NHL 21 while we're rolling in the sports genre.
We'll use the sports corner to transition into the games corner. Brilliant. Yeah. I hate this game. Oh my god. I don't know what it is.
This is week 3 of Joab on NHL 21.
Joab hates this game. Yeah. It is bad. It is proper fucking bad. I finished my first season, right? And my guy, I don't know your hockey terms or anything, but my guy was like rookie of the year. He was MVP. He was like, I don't know if they give out trophies for most penalty minutes, but he definitely won that by like, I don't know, 4 times the amount of anyone else's penalty minutes. He was like playoffs MVP or finals MVP or whatever the fuck you call that. We won the Stanley Cup. And then I asked for a trade because I went and looked at the stats, and I was drafted to the Rangers, and I went and looked at the stats, and we lost 75% of our of our face-offs over the course of a season. 75%, which is like you would accidentally win more than that many fucking face-offs.
Yeah. It's a coin toss,
ideally,
right? Anyway, basically.
It's supposed to be. Like, fucking hell. You've got one job. You don't need to score. You just get it to the dude who gives it to someone and gets infinite fucking assists and sometimes a hat trick every other game as well. Like, ridiculous. So I'm playing on, I think I said it last week, I'm playing on Superstar difficulty. It's so simplistic. After I got out of the rookie season, they no longer talk about my character. Like, but all the stuff that they used to talk about, there's these like cutscenes where your coach asks you to do something, usually something impossible. He'll be like, "Oh, make sure you don't let them get any more shots on goal. And then you don't let them get any shots on goal, right? While you're on the ice, they never take a shot on goal because they are sprawled out on the ice. They are basically, there is dead bodies everywhere, right? You are laying cunts out all over the place. Nobody gets a shot off. Or if they do get a shot off, it's into you. And you've got like, you finish the fucking game with like 14 fucking blocks or some shit. I don't even know if that's a stat that they track. I'm starting to think it mustn't be. But anyway, you get off the ice at the end, and the coach is like, I thought you weren't going to let them have, like, take shots on goal. And it's like, he's talking about how they scored 4 goals while you weren't on the ice. And it's like, well, I don't know, cunt. Like, you're the coach. Why don't you have this chat with the other fucking dipshits on this fucking team? Right? There's only so much I can do. I can only lay out 5 cunts at once. They're not allowed any more people on the ice, okay? And then once I'm not on the ice, I can't lay anyone out. It's against the rules. I keep getting in trouble for doing it when I'm on the ice, let alone when what would happen if I wasn't on the ice. Or he's like, you know, your teammate will be like, oh, you know, you got to get more shots. I want you to take more shots. You're like, okay, cool. I can do that. I feel like I'm already doing a lot of shots, but I can do it. I'll just never pass. We'll have a very low scoring game. We'll only score 6 or 7 goals instead of our usual 14. And then you just sit there slap shotting constantly. And I am literally counting how many shots I take, and I go over by 5. And then I get off the ice, and they're like, he wanders up, and he's like, "Oh, you know, if you make me a promise, you've got to stand up. You got to keep your promises, Ben. Like that's what being a teammate's all about." I'm like, motherfucker, all I did, like, my teammate grade at the end of that fucking game was fucking E, because I never passed it. I would get into their blue zone, into their zone, and then I would slap shot it. It didn't matter if there were people in the way. It didn't matter if it was possibly ever going to go in. If I could have passed it to someone who could easily put it in, no, just fucking bang, bang, call for shot, bang. I would call for call for pass rather, at like at times when it was just idiotic, just so I could fucking slapshot it in. I'm like, I did what you want, motherfucker. It was a ludicrous ask, and I still managed to accomplish it. And now I'm getting shit for this. So there's that. At some point over the course of my illustrious career, the conversations you have with people, they seem to have gotten out of order. I've put up a screenshot on Twitter of so you'll have like in that screenshot, Panarin came up, and he was talking about, I think I managed to succeed at keeping one of my promises. I think he wanted me to like, he's like, oh yeah, you know, you gotta make them feel it this game. And it was like uh goal, body check 5 opponents. And I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna leave this one up to anything. I'm going to fuck up 5 separate people. Not like just get 5 checks. I'm going to find 5 different people, and I'm gonna fuck them up. And I wound up like fucking up about 15 people. Like I was just, if it like, for some reason it's super lenient. I remember the older NHL games. If you were like a microsecond after they'd gotten rid of the puck and you checked them, it was like it'd whistle you for boarding or roughing or I don't know all the fucking NHL terms. Like they'd find some reason to send you to the penalty box. But in this one, they'll pass the fucking puck away, and then like it'll be like Luke counting in 3, 2, 1, and then I fucking belt them. I will fucking KO them, and they'll like lay on the ground. And then someone on their team will come over and try and fight me because, oh, you know, you can't do that. But I don't accept the fight. You don't accept the fight, and half the time they can't actually fight you. You just don't take your gloves off, right? What a life hack. Oh, okay. Well, so what? I don't get any retribution. Fair enough. Easy peasy. Um. So anyway, I am belting these dudes, and yeah, you can wait so long after they've gotten rid of the puck, so you just careen into them, and yeah, works perfectly. In this case, Panarin was happy that I'd succeeded. I would have been pissed. I would have been so upset
Mm-hmm.
if I hadn't succeeded on this one. And my guy responds like Panarin's just asked him if he wants to go get hot dogs. It's like, oh yeah, I love hot dogs. Like Panarin's like, oh, good job checking all those people. And my guy's like, yeah, I love hot dogs. And beer. Hot dogs and beer. That's what I like. And Panarin's like, yeah, well, keep up the pressure next game. What an odd conversation that would be. It would seem like almost like they were like spies talking in code words or some shit. But what's actually happened is that sometimes Panarin will ask you to go out on a I don't know, on a trip with the team, and sometimes Panarin will ask you to accomplish something in a game, and at some point in my game, they've like gotten out of whack, and so now Panarin asks me to go out with the team, and my answers are whether or not I will succeed at like a objective,
Mm.
and then like that's how that conversation goes. And then when he asks me to accomplish something, it hasn't gotten back in sync yet. Even though I've changed teams, I'm now on the Sabres, the Buffalo Sabres. So I didn't even move that far, right? Buffalo's pretty close to New York, I think. So I was just like, I just moved up the road,
Mm-hmm.
and it is crazy. I feel like playing for the Rangers ill prepared me for having to do anything on face-offs. I just wait. I don't pay any attention on face-offs because I know we're going to lose them on the Rangers. And now we keep winning them, and the fucking puck will just like sort of sail back into our half
Mm-hmm.
because it like he'll flick it back to me, and I won't be paying attention. I'll be like playing on the fucking on my other screen, and then like the puck goes, and I'm like, oh fuck. I could have taken anyway. That's annoying, but it's probably a good thing. But I just can't get over how bad everything in like you just it is. I started up here. I started up top, right? Like, yeah, maybe this game's it's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a hockey game. And then like last week I was like I think I was on the downward trend, right? Because I was talking about how, I feel like the NHL franchise deserves better.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at this game's fucking bad, man. Like they've just barely shit this one through. It is just a woeful effort. And if I was a hockey fan, I'd be like mad as shit. They have to do something about this shit. Like, I know it's fucking some late to the party stuff, but like
Mm.
the effort they've put in here is just so woeful. The amount of little things that just oh, this so immersion breaking. My problem is I don't want to go play just regular full team hockey games.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the ability to just play as one player because then the AI can like make up for me slacking off. Uh, but man, it's just really bad.
Mm.
It's so
Well,
much worse than I expected.
like I wonder if this comes down to the thing we talked about like last week and the week before of it just not being a big game sort of sales wise, and also having that yearly churn of it's got to be out every
Yeah,
what is it, October or something like that. When do sports games normally come out?
I don't know.
I think it's like October.
Yeah.
because that's when basketball and EA sort of comes out. And if this like, all right, we've just got to
FIFA.
like update the rosters, and this is like our roadmap for the next year, not even year,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
8 months.
9 months, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what we're doing, right? And you look at stuff I've saw this week. 2K talked about PGA Tour and how successful that was. That did 2 million sales in since August. So not quite a year, but I think that's pretty decent for a golf game. And I
Yeah.
guess we have to see what if that continues. Like, do they? Because they've talked about they're releasing a new game. Was it Q1 or Q2 next year? I can't remember. But they're not. At this stage, at least, they're not doing, and that could be a pandemic thing, but it's not a yearly. It's not going to be a yearly release because this PGA Tour came out last year, and if they're waiting, you know, 18 months or something for the next one, maybe that may give it a bit more. I don't know, like features, like if it's got more features, or if they just kind of just tidy things up a little bit. Like it'll be interesting to see the difference between a yearly churned out game and something that is on more like a year and a half
Well,
cycle.
PGA like 2K was, in my opinion, subpar.
Yeah, I mean it was
Like
very bare bones, but it was also their first crack at it, right?
it was their first crack under the 2K banner,
Yeah.
but it was like it was very telling to me that if you Alt F10, if
Mm.
you GeForce
Recorded a
captured,
video, yeah.
yeah, it just put it in a folder labeled the golf club,
Yeah.
and Heath played a fuck ton of the golf club, and I remember he was just listing all of the ways that it was the same. Like it was the first time they made PGA Tour, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was by no means their first golf game.
Right.
Like they literally just slapped a fucking label on the golf club. I don't know, man.
It could just give them more of a budget though, like more money now that it's been proven that this game can sell.
Yeah. Like hopefully they do something with it, but I'm starting to think like someone's got a. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's the reviewing game is fucked. It is fucked. All right, how long would it take me to review NHL 21?
Yeah.
I feel like I could write a review of the Beer Pro mode now.
Yeah.
Now that I've finished an entire season and a bit, and half a bit. Yeah, I feel like I've got enough of a grasp on it. But like, if it was for a major site, what would I do? I'd play
You
a
do
bunch
like
of
play now
games
and
and try out their whatever shithole FIFA Ultimate Team variant they've got, and maybe get into a tiny amount of the Be a Promo, just enough to get a taste of it. And if I think back to where I would have been up to if I'd been under the fucking hammer to review this game, yeah, I would have been back at Joab, who is kind of having a good time. Right? There's just, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah.
review games, fucked.
You kind of look at NBA 2K and that review cycle is pretty much non-existent these days. They generally send code out for that game day of release.
Yeah.
And also because they don't need it. Like they don't need to drum up hype for that game because it's one of the biggest selling games every year. But trying to review a game like that is so hard. Because again, it's one of the biggest selling games of the year, and reviews are pretty much not needed after release. Like the moment you drop a review that's after release, nobody gives a shit. And this is just purely by numbers. Like I've seen the amount of numbers these things do. Reviews are drop off very quickly. They don't have a tail on them. And so if you're reviewing something like NBA 2K, where it's got the play now, it's got WNBA, it's got my career mode, it's got my GM, it's got the online blacktop, it's got like 8 or 9 different sort of components that are in there, and I generally spend most of my time whenever we talk about NBA 2K playing my career, and I'll jump
Yeah.
into my GM, see what's going on there, and I generally jump into like my team and crack open a few cards, and I'll play a couple of challenges. But otherwise, like trying to review a game like that fucking take you forever because there's just so much going on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I think that's basically the only thing you can get out of, like, that's, well, not the only thing, by no means is it the only thing. That's the best thing about us having a podcast, is that we can sort of
Talk about it for weeks.
examine the process over the course of a couple of weeks. But I don't like, it doesn't serve much use as consumer advice at that point. I mean, I'm playing NHL thanks to the Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass brought to you by The Gap. The Gap brought to you by Xbox Game Pass. No, I'm playing that because it was on Game Pass. I certainly didn't get a fucking code for it. I think I might be deep on EA's shit list at this point. I don't know why.
Rocket Arena.
Oh, that's right. Well, that wasn't my fault. That was Rocket Arena's fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's just, what, like, how would you? Yeah, I don't know how you'd fix it, but something has to happen because these games aren't getting better, man. They're not getting better. They're like they're so incremental in the way that they improve these games, and it's not even close to worth the money. When they come to Game Pass, yes,
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's worth checking out. Then, like, FIFA is now on Game Pass. Obviously NHL
MLB.
and Madden. Yeah, MLB The Show. Like, that is actually a far more reasonable method of acquiring.
Don't
But
bring it up because you know it'll happen. Like NBA 2K, it'll be like you won't be buying NBA 2K anymore. You'll be buying the subscription, and you'll be paying $8 a month, and they'll figure it out, and it'll be just like a little bit more expensive to buy like the, to buy the full year, and they'll get the sweet spot as people that don't actually buy the full price game, and it'll come. It'll like it's coming.
I'm surprised they haven't done it
Yeah.
yet. Honestly, like, I'm surprised it hasn't happened. I think it's because that changes the landscape again. That changes to the sort of battle pass type of dealio where you have to be set up for, like, we've seen the difference between, Fortnite, which I guess pioneered the battle pass concept, right? And they were set up. They, like, structured themselves to be able to do the battle pass concept, or at least they transitioned into that method really quickly. Whereas you see people like Apex or games like Apex or Call of Duty, which changed to do the battle pass, and they fucked it up for the first 3 or 4 battle passes because they weren't set up for that program of work. It creates a timeline that they weren't ready for. They were on a season pass content drop system when they weren't even close to ready for the way the battle pass works is sort of dribs and drabs instead. Which, I think it's interesting. Like, half the time, I mean, fucking Apex still basically does its battle pass like it's a season pass. It's trash. Anyway, it's I don't know, man. I'm just disappointed. I'm just disappointed because I just want a good hockey game. But then I think about what I want out of a good hockey game. Think about what I enjoy when I'm playing NHL 21, and it is laying cunts out at high speed. So
you
maybe I don't even want that.
You want a new
I,
Mortal Kombat.
I do not want a fighting game. I absolutely don't want a fighting game. What I want is rollerball. That's what I want. Rollerball.
Hmm.
What was that game? I know we.
The one we tried to guess like last week, and was it Rocket City or something like that? I don't know.
No, not the fucking EA one. Not Rocket City. What was it? That's out of Brawl City, right? Or whatever the fuck it's called. No, Dodge Brawl. That was our pick for
Right.
a much better name. But that's out on Game Pass today, isn't it? I
Is
think.
it
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think
Knockout
so.
City?
Knockout City.
Is that
That's
what
it.
I
Yeah,
just said?
that's
Did I just say that? What did I
no,
say
you
a
said
second ago?
Brawl City.
No, you said Brawl City.
Well,
I
you
can't
didn't say
remember.
it either, motherfucker.
When does Knockout City come out? It says here. I don't know. Why is there a giant thread? It's to. This is in UTC time. I don't know what UTC. Who does that? Who does
I know, right?
UTC time? Nobody cares. So it's in 2 days from now, ish. A day
Right.
and a half.
Okay. Right. I don't know when fucking anything happens. No, I'm thinking about a different game, rollerball game. I'm going to Google it at great risk
Is this the
because
Ubisoft one?
no, definitely not that. Holy shit! Fuck that game was awful. Don't
Roller
don't
Champions. Is that what
not
you want?
roller
You want Roller
champions.
Champions?
It's not roller champions. Okay. No, it was like death something. It definitely had death in the name.
Deathloop. Death Stranding?
Not no. Death. Damn it! And you threw hoops or something. Maybe it wasn't a rollerball.
This is a movie. I'm pretty sure it's a movie with
Yeah,
with what's his name?
yeah. And there was a
Dean
remake of
Cain.
it as well. No, it wasn't Dean Cain, was it? It wasn't Dean Cain. There was the Burt Reynolds one,
It's
right?
called Rollerball. It had like Dean Cain in it. Remember? That's what you're
No,
thinking
that was a
of.
remake of the Burt Reynolds one, is what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm trying to. Oh, it wasn't Burt Reynolds. It was James Caan. My bad.
You're
I
very
see how
bad
that's
at this.
Fuck off, mate. You said Dean Cain.
Dean Cain was in it.
Get the fuck out of here. It was Chris Klein.
Was it?
Yeah,
In
Chris
Rollerball.
Klein, Jean Reno, LL Cool J, Rebecca Romijn Stamos. I'm not seeing Dean Cain. Paul Heyman was in it.
Oh, this one's called Future Sport.
Fuck off, Future Sport. That's not even the same thing. Why would you remember a Dean Cain film over an LL Cool J film? LL Cool J is a better actor than Dean Cain. That's my position.
Absolutely.
I will die on that hill.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, let's move on. Jump for 40 minutes. Let's keep going. Let's go with Untrusted. This is a hacking game on Steam. You've been hacking the planet.
Oh, he's hacking. He's hacking. It is not a hacking game. It is a social deduction game, a la Mafia or Werewolf or Town of Salem.
Okay.
And it is. I'm not a fan.
Hmm.
So it looks like a hacking game, and you play a group of hackers who are trying to break into something. And it's sort of a bit of a reverse, right? Because the good guys are the hackers, and the bad guys are the cops trying to bust the hackers.
Yeah.
And so outside of that, it's basically just Town of Salem. But it looks like, I don't know, a Script Kids IRC window from back in 2002 or some shit. That's about it. That's about all there is to it. You're attempting to accomplish some tasks and stuff. You try to hack these nodes, and you make your way through the this tree of nodes until you get to the last one. You've got 9 days to hack all the nodes that you require, and the entire time, people are trying to work out, who's a hacker, who's a cop. There are some people who are neither. There's like 16 players. There's neutral teams, all this kind of shit, and it is honestly, it's just a far more obtuse town of Salem. I don't know why you'd like. I literally had this conversation in a game of it, because we were like the first game I played, um, like you've got like the person who with the most power, the operations leader, and they're the people who are able to sort of like direct what people do, and like they were AFK, they just didn't show up. And so we were trying to work out like we got to like day 5 and we hadn't accomplished anything as hackers. And the cops were just taking people out left, right, and center. And it was me and, like, by my calculations, 2 other hackers and 2 cops. And so, like, we're literally on whatever day we're up to, 6 or 7 day. And if one more hacker goes, that's it. It's game over. Because once it's 2v2, like it's basically done. The hackers can't stop the cops because they can't outvote them. They can't get a majority to vote them out. So we're going through that, and you've got time over the course of this thing, but nobody will fucking agree. Like, I can't get any of these cunts to fucking agree on. And this is my first game, by the way. I can't get them to agree. Like, everyone's got code names. I was like Dr. Pink. And I think we'd hacked a node successfully for the first time. And it was me, and the only 2 people who had attempted was me and Dr. Magenta. And like there were 3 other people, Dr. Gold, Dr. Brown, and Dr. I don't know, Blue. And oh no, it was Ochre, whatever. uh and like so neither of these 3 had I had failed at the hack, which meant that the other act actually succeeded. Dr. Magenta had succeeded at his hack. And then so I knew that he was a hacker. I knew I was a hacker. We just had to work out who the other hacker was. But like Magenta wasn't being helpful. And I'm trying to like private message the dude and tell him like that's how it has to be. And he's like pushing back. And so with like 30 seconds left in this fucking game, because it is going to end or arrest me rather. Salem, and everyone else in this game is like, yeah, I don't know. Oh, you're playing. I didn't have a better time than I would have in Town of Salem. And the problem is that, like, right, if you're not familiar with Town of Salem, it's Mafia or Werewolf, but in video game form. You've got these little characters, and they go into the center of the village, and they vote for one person to murder. And if they don't do it, then the Mafia members will murder them in the night, right? Until there's only Mafia members left, or there's only villagers left. If they've hung all the Mafia members or werewolves or whatever the fuck, then the villagers win. And if they don't, then the Mafia wins. In this, you've got a time limit, so there's extra challenge there. When you're doing things, it's not as obvious. Everyone has to hack a node, but like the way hacking a node can be disrupted is it's not very clear, and so you don't know like what other like. That's why I kept playing, because I'm like, okay, maybe I just don't get the tools available yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there is definitely a learning curve with these games where you just, oh well, I didn't know the mafia could do that. And it's, with Among Us, right? As you understand what the imposter is capable of, it changes how you read situations. But even once I felt like I had a good grasp on what the cops could do in this, I still never felt like I could really point to any one action. Like things sort of just happened, and you could determine how you fucked up, but you couldn't, like, it was always reactive. There was nothing strategic about what you were doing. It
Mm-hmm.
was always just a reaction to, oh, okay, so that happens. Okay, so I guess next time that happens. But it'd be like if in Among Us there were like 7 billion different fucking ways that you like, instead of just, oh, okay, well, I see now that they must have jumped into the vents and gotten away at that perfect time, or they were lying about being on the cams, or like they're the one they turned the lights out at that time so they could get me alone, or something like that. Those tiny things that have like an immediate cause and effect. In this, it's like, oh, okay, so they DDoSed, and to stop that, I had to DDoS them. And you got to do all these like, or I was the ops leader, and so I had to give away. I got in a lot of trouble in my third game because I was the ops leader and I was random arrested, and stayed in the chat to see what would happen, and everyone lost their fucking shit because I was Dr. Brown this time. Dr. Brown didn't even fucking pass lead, so our ops leader. So this fucking, oh, it's got like an auto filter, so it'll be like forking. Uh, Forking dude didn't even pass. And I'm like, how? Like, how could I have passed? I didn't know I was going to be fucking arrested. Right? It's like if I had some inkling of the concept, then I would have passed. But anyway, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just Town of Salem with extra steps. I don't know why you would go through the obtuseness. I think people just like it because it's a little bit fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think it's good.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. All right. So this is
Mm.
only, it seems pretty new as well.
It is,
Um,
yes.
but maybe you want to avoid, and it's free if people want to jump in. So it's not like you have to pay for it.
But the learning curve is bananas.
Mm.
I would definitely recommend doing both tutorials, and then play. You still won't understand what you're doing for 4 or 5 games, in my opinion.
Right.
Whereas I feel like you could pick up Town of Salem in just a couple of games without, like, maybe at most you'd have like a wiki open so you could work out, like, I remember in Town of Salem I always had a wiki open so I could like look up what my fucking role is. It'd be like, you're a witch, and I'm like, well, I don't know what the fuck a witch does.
Hmm.
um but outside of that, like, it's still pretty direct. Like, it's still okay, so I'm a witch, so I want bloody, I'm the jester, so I want them to hang me, right? That's it. That's my entire. So I got to act like a sus boy, so they hang me, but not so sus that the mafia murders me.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. I can do that. I can make that happen. Um, and then or not so sus that they think I'm the jester and trying to get like there's that simplicity that didn't exist in it just because there was all this other shit that you had to do
Right.
uh or pay attention to focus on. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, let's keep on going then. That's Untrusted. And while we're still talking about, I guess, free games on Steam, Tower Ball,
Oh yeah.
um, which is a game we talked about last week, recommended by a listener. I've basically just left this running because it is an idle game. I've just left this running for like the last week on my PC. It hasn't closed at all. Just
I've seen.
sitting
Yeah.
sitting there going. Um,
Yeah.
Basically, it's sort of like a tower defense game with where each level is a screen, and there are balls that drop from the top to the bottom of the screen, and there are these different pegs throughout the level that you can put a tower onto. The balls take damage from the tower, and they get progressively smaller and smaller the less hit points they've got, till eventually they disappear, and you get money for them. And then you can spend that money to buy new towers or upgrade your towers. And then that is the cycle. You get upgrade points to spend on towers to level them up, make them do more damage or different types of abilities. And also you're able to unlock extra levels. And yeah, that's pretty much the loop of the game. You can prestige and then go start again. Typical idle sort of style mechanics. And I think the last time that we talked about this, I'd only been really running it for about 1 day or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, at this point, I think I've beaten the game. Like it's just running at this stage. Like I don't do anything. I just let it run. And every once in a while, I
Yeah.
check it, and I spend my gems on the power ups that you get. I've maxed out all the initial power ups, which are called dark power ups. I can't buy any more of
Oh
those.
yeah.
Like it's all maxed up.
Nice.
There
Yeah.
are light power ups, which basically cost you absolutely nothing. Um,
Yeah.
and it does a whole lot of difference. And so I buy them almost immediately, max them out every prestige run. And the next one are just normal gem upgrades, which is things like um, extra tower damage or make balls fall faster, things like that. And they're a little bit more grindy, but for the most part, um, I have, as far as I'm aware, gotten to the sort of end game. Like I know there is more to come, but I don't know like when that actually starts happening. Basically, there are bosses in the game, and I don't know when that triggers yet. Like there's obviously a
Right.
point where that happens, and yeah, I don't know when that will go through, but it's
Mm.
just very bare bones at this stage. Like we were talking about last week how it seemed like a mobile game that was
Mm.
put over to Steam, and we were right because it was. And
Yeah.
it's got this whole gem system where you can actually spend money to buy gems and all that sort of thing. But you get the gems like so quickly that,
Yeah.
like I said, I've maxed out. I maxed out that first section in like 2 days. Like I just smashed through them, and I'm
Yeah.
a quarter of the way through the one that is like, hey, you need to do your tower upgrade damage. It just seems like you get them so quickly that that is a non-factor. So again, it's like a very early, like a brand new game, and these types of things go through massive evolutions of
Yep.
current. Like the idea is you're always grinding, right? You're always trying to get to the next thing, and eventually
Yeah. It's
they'll
incremental.
introduce some sort of new mechanic that will keep you going further and further. But as far as I'm aware, I'm at the like I can't go any higher on levels unless they open up this boss thing, and I don't know how that sort of affects the game. But um, yeah, it's I've gotten to the point where I think I've sort of like solved it. All I'm doing is just upgrading my tower to do more damage so that things die quicker. That that's
Yeah.
where I'm at this point. So, did you play any more of it?
Yeah. I switched to my mobile
Mm,
and I've been playing on that. Progress is a lot slower on mobile, which I think I kind of appreciate.
sure.
because you can't have it on all the time. But it does feel like it would. I think it might actually be better suited to the PC, if only because a lot of it's sort of when you close the app,
Mm.
uh, it's sort of wipes all balls and then just does like an AFK calculation. It gives you 15% of the upgrade points that you would have gotten had you been present. 15% of the most upgrade points you've ever like achieved, and so like out of that, it's you wind up in this situation where you definitely like I'm making 50% of what I would be if I was on PC, right? Because I could leave it open at all times.
Mhm.
If you switch away from it,
Mm.
switch away from the screen, it like freezes. So you have to close the app if you actually want. Like, if you switch away and the app is still open and it's still in your cache, which I think is 3 apps deep,
Right.
it won't be doing any AFK calculations. It will think it's still open, so you can have it open technically for fucking ages, which is a bit of a pain. You have to actively kill the application if you want it to do the AFK calculation. Which I'm not a fan of that. But at the same time, it does seem to be better balanced for a system where you can't have it on all the time.
Sure.
Because a couple of times, like I've noticed, I've gotten huge gains when I plug my phone in and then turn like disable it from like auto turning off.
Hmm.
Like the screen will stay on and it will just churn through, and I get fucking huge amounts of fucking gains. Yeah, like I don't think that's ideal.
Hmm.
Um, for like, I don't think you want a mobile game to require you to do that, right? You don't want. I don't think mobile games should be encouraging you to turn off your auto dimmer and shit. So that's for the benefit of your screen life and
Yeah.
shit. But I think at the pace that at the mobile version pace, I think it's much better suited that way. It just doesn't feel all that complex, right? You just I don't know, you buff up uh whatever tower you feel is actually going to give you some sort of benefit. Buff up.
Yeah. The
I'm
rays.
currently yeah. I've buffed up the ray as far as I can.
Yeah.
Now I buff up the saw so that I
No,
can dump a single.
mate.
No,
No. Just focus
go
on your shrink ray. That is all I'm doing right now. I put everything
Yeah.
in shrink ray. That I get to um my shrink ray is currently doing damage per second is 47.3 million. It's
Right.
got a permanent buff of 931%. And that's the only thing that does damage. Like, I have nothing else doing any damage. Like, once you get to the last levels, all you need is for those balls to be dropping on those like
Yep.
last 2 levels, and that's where all your income comes from. Like, my
Right.
first level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 currently have one gun on each of those levels. Um, and then you get to level 8, and I've got 2 shrink rays, and the next 2 levels are just shrink rays, and a saw in the middle for one of them, acid to do double damage, and a magnet which halves the it does like 10% damage every like 3 seconds or something like that. And then the last
Right.
level, I've just got 2 magnets running, which does 10% for each one every like 2 seconds, and then the rest are shrink rays. Like, those early levels, just all you need to focus on is getting those balls destroyed to make them drop to the next level, and that is it. Like, I've got all my
Well,
damage on the last two
that's why I've got
levels.
the saws.
Yeah,
That's why I'm doing the saws, because I want them to be at a point where like they're at the moment. So the first level is a gun, because why not?
that's all you
I
need.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all you need. and then the second level is like I think one saw, and then the third level is one saw, fourth level is two saws, uh, and I just want the fifth level to auto drop once they get auto drop through the saw.
Yeah.
Then I can go to the sixth level and concentrate on actually like, because that's where I dump all my shit is at the moment, is the sixth and seventh level, because I'm
Right.
not
That's
far
fair.
enough into actually doing damage on 8, 9,
I
or 10.
I can't see the balls on level 7 because they're dead before
Oh, they never show up. Yeah,
they're on the screen.
right.
That's
Yeah.
that's how quickly they're gone. And that's using
Yeah.
one shrink ray.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. See, that's, I don't know. That's a level of complexity that I
Hmm.
feel is lacking
Yeah,
a little
because
bit.
they give you all these tools, and the tools aren't needed. Because like my
Yeah.
shrink ray is doing so much damage that there's no point
Yeah.
putting points into anything else. Because what was the number? 47.3 million DPS on the
Yeah.
shrink ray. My next best tool is probably the magnets, but they don't do damage. They just do a 10% like
Yeah.
deduction every couple of seconds. So my next best like actual weapon thing is the electric
Oh,
towers,
yeah.
and they do
Yeah.
17,000 damage, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
That is
47
quite the
million compared to
downgrade. Yeah.
17, and I'm just like, there's just such a huge gap between
Yeah.
the amount of damage that these things can output, and like I can dump points into um the electric stuff, and maybe I need to focus on that in the weird prestige points, because every time you prestige you get points to put into
Upgrade points. Yeah.
more upgrades. But even then I feel like the stuff that it gives you to dump points into isn't really worth it, like because I've basically maxed out everything on electric anyway. The only thing I'm putting points into now is extra damage, and it's not enough.
Well, the
When
trick
I
with electric, right, is every time it bounces, it gains 10% damage, right?
No,
So if you
does it
maximize
gain or does it
them,
lose?
I thought it gained.
Right.
I don't know, man. I thought it gained.
I thought it was reduction. It's because
No.
there's a stat here that says reduce damage loss by 1%.
Oh, but you've got there's the dark power up for it.
I haven't looked at that stuff for so long. Each bounce increases damage by right. Yeah, but so like even looking at that, I'm like, it does a damage reduction for each bounce,
Yep.
but then this thing is like an extra bounce. It's just like weird.
So it's sort of just mitigating the damage reduction. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, my point is like the thing about your complexity is that there's so much of a gap between the best thing that you can get in the game to like the next two or three things down that list that there's just no point
Yep.
spending
Yeah.
it on anything else, or like focusing on anything other than level like 8 upwards. And there's at the point I'm at the moment, there's 10 levels, and it's like just get to so things are dropping, and then
Yep.
focus everything in 10 and 11 or 10 and 9, because you're making so much money on those two
Yeah.
levels that it's not even worth trying.
Yeah.
Everything dies so quickly on levels 1 through to 7 that it's doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just like it just needs more time. I feel like there's obviously someone working on this. I've seen them posting in the thread, because there's a bug at the moment which I'm having that looks like everybody possibly could be getting, where
Right.
like you spend money on your permanent damage upgrade and it's spending double the amount of money required. And that
Oh, is
seems to
that what's
be
happening? I think that does it on mobile. I thought it was just auto spending as much as it could or something.
no, because I'm only getting, it does
Yeah.
5%
Okay.
increments.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just
34. I know you're right. Yeah, it's double clicking.
Yeah. That's what I thought was happening.
Right. Okay. Okay, fair enough. As long as I'm not losing money, I'm okay with
Right.
that. Yeah, it's got something to do with one of the buttons. Like it like double clicks it or something like that. And I just figured you were losing money, but no, I just checked it. And yeah, you're right. It's just double clicking it.
Mm.
So he's been responding about like problems like that. or she, I don't know. But yeah, hopefully it kind of gets some progressive updates because I think it's a neat idea of like
Yeah.
this sort of layered idle game that you know you kind of look at. I still play. What the fuck is it called? I play it every day. I can't remember the name of that other one, the running one. Idle Slayer, and
Yeah.
that gets updated quite regularly. It's slowed down the last like month, but he was churning them out
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, Man, I still jump in there and play that, but yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No.
No. All right. Let's keep on going to another form of slaying, Hitman 2. I guess it's here.
Yeah. Nice. Hitman 2. Yeah, I jumped in to play a bit of Hitman because I realized that they'd done the transfer so I could play Hitman 2, but
Hmm.
I'd never actually looked into it, like never looked at it like in the Hitman 3 engine. Like I think I'd checked it like just to see that it had worked,
Sure.
but I hadn't really played the levels in Hitman 3 all that much. And so I went to do it, and then I just got distracted and wound up playing the Hokkaido mission in Hitman 1 because I just really that's just such a good mission. Um, Still one of their most interesting level designs, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And after I finished that, I felt like I succeeded in that one. I felt like the successor to that level in Hitman 2 um, was not in Hitman 3 was Berlin, because there's so much going on. There's so many story threads um, in Berlin and in Hokkaido, uh, and you like the way you go about both of them is obviously quite different, because in Hokkaido you're in a hospital, you're in like a gown, you've got nothing. There's an RFID chip that tracks where you are at all times. There's
Hmm.
definitely a significant amount of time pressure depending on which story mission you want to go on. But that time pressure, I think, is what links Berlin, because if you want to like take out all your all your targets without killing any of them or any of them being aware. If you want to get that achievement, there's a fucking ton of time pressure, and it's quite a challenging run. Um, and I was looking for Hitman 2's version of that level, one that had all that complexity. And someone recommended New York, which I think it takes place in Grand Central Station.
Right.
And it's from the expansion pass.
Of 2.
Yeah,
Right.
like, and so I went to go play it, and I don't have the expansion pass or 2.
Ah.
And so I went to see about acquiring it, and it's $60 fucking.
Hmm.
$60 fucking. Holy Jesus Christ. That's more than a fucking That's more than fucking Hitman 3 is, I think, at the moment. Or it was when I looked. Ridiculous. Like, what the fuck is going on there? It's only like 4 levels. They're out of their fucking minds.
Hmm.
Warner Brothers fucking cooked, man. Um anyway, I was very upset about that. So I couldn't play fucking New York, and I'm like, well, now I'm disillusioned on this entire affair. I'm done. And so I bailed.
Yeah.
And I didn't play any Hitman 2, despite that being the entire reason I loaded the fucking game up.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to share that Heath-esque journey with everyone. I started
Started in
in
first, ended in last.
exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, hey, I didn't write this down, but
Mm-hmm.
while I'm on the subject of cash money and video games, I have sold all of my Steam cards.
Mm-hmm. For the moment.
Yeah, well, all the
Till
ones I had.
Till you get more. Like they just pop up in my list every once in a while. Like, you've got a new item. I'm like, what is this? They've given me like a pack of cards. You're like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess they're just gonna sit there, not opened.
I made fucking $50.
Hmm.
I'll take $50. It took me, uh, like, I don't know, 35 minutes of clicking, but I was watching YouTube videos. I was watching some John Boy. I wish he'd do hockey again, but the baseball season is on, so he's only talking about baseball. It's tedious as shit. There was some good hockey stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'm just clicking. $50. Why not? Shit, yeah. That's
Because in 30
I'm
years they're gonna be worth $8,000 when we're
absolutely.
on
They're
Steam
actually
coins.
okay. All right, all right.
You've screwed up.
They're actually devaluing. They're getting worse. You can
Hmm.
see they track the prices. And like 2 years ago, I could have probably made about $400. Ludicrous. Anyway,
Yeah.
now I sold one of my cards for 1 cent, or I received 1 cent. It was barely worth the effort. Um, I mean, I wasn't paying attention to what anything was worth, but still. I just wanted to throw it out there, like listeners, if you've got Steam cards, maybe you can pick up a cheeky couple bucks. It won't take long. It doesn't take all that long to just sell all your shit. I also actually didn't only sell Steam cards. I also sold all of my my Player Unknown's Battlegrounds junk because you can
Oh
sell all
no.
that.
All
Sold
those 13 dirty T-shirts that you've got.
dirty red
Have
T-shirts.
you
For,
seen the stupid skins they do in that game now?
no,
They're
are they awesome?
fucking. They've gone like full stupid.
Fortnite.
Do you remember when like back? I don't know. I feel like maybe I talked to him about this, or I remember reading an article of being like, someone asking about like the cosmetics in uh PUBG and if they'll ever do anything that's sort of like Fortnite or go a bit goofy. And they're like, no, we've got like an aesthetic, or everything is always going to look like military focused, or like something that belongs in this sort of post-apocalyptic sort of wasteland style gameplay. Like that's not what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
We're not gonna goofy. But like you look at their skins now, and they're fucking pandas running around and bright pink, you know, t-shirts and just weird shit like that. It's
Yeah.
a huge turnaround. So um, maybe if you hung on to any of those old stuff, you'd be nobody has those dirty t-shirts anymore. It's all
Are
these
you
crazy
a
skins.
digital hoarder? Is that what it is? You're a
That's what I
digital hoarder, I
that's
think.
what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's well, you know, you shouldn't hoard, okay?
Mm.
You gotta let go. Yeah. Anyway, sell your Steam cards. My
Hmm.
opinion. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Luke's opinion, hold them forever.
Hold on to the moon. That's what they
Never,
say,
yeah,
right?
to the moon. That's what they say. That's
Yeah.
what the kids are saying.
Okay. Let's keep on going here. You've been playing Elder Scrolls Online. I'm assuming that's what this is. A yes, so.
That is correct. Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah, I've been playing a bunch of this. Playing Blackwood on the PTS and just checking out the companion system. I think it's very clever. I don't know if I talked about it before, but I think it's a clever way to inject some life into a solo player's gameplay. Like I've spoken before about how that's pretty much exactly how I play Elder Scrolls Online, because you can just sort of play through the storylines and learn essentially history of Elder Scrolls, because it's all set 800 years before, 800 or 1,000 years before the events of the games. Yeah, you just sort of there's it's just like these goofy references to things you remember doing in the games and stuff. So Blackwood is based in the Gates of Oblivion, so it's all related to Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Was my least favorite of the 3 that I played. Like I just didn't really gel with it all that much. Didn't think it was anywhere near as good as Morrowind, which is still my favorite. I think still the best. Although Skyrim was obviously far more ambitious. Uh, and so Elder Scrolls, like they've got these companions. You do the quests. They join you, and they'll just wander around. It's not quite Mass Effect levels, but like they're working on that direction, which I think is a really cool idea. So basically, they'll follow you around, and when you do things, they react depending on what you're doing, and like the way they react. Bastion's like this goody two shoes. Miri's um, like a bit of a scoundrel. So when you do bad things, Bastion gets madder, and his relationship with you like devolves, and you can improve their relationship with you. I don't know that it translates into them being better or worse at what they do. But I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. So it's not like you have to manage that relationship or anything. Um, so you wind up just sort of having a companion who's there commenting. I believe they fixed it. Miri was running around behind you yapping way too fucking much in combat. She was like, "Yeah, take this. Oh, and this and this," and you're like, "Okay, it's not a fucking Twitch stream. You don't have to fucking talk through everything you're fucking doing. Okay, I know you're there. It's fine. You can just remark every now and then when you've done something. You do not have to talk for every fucking single second of this fucking fight." They fixed that, which is good. And it's just a clever system. I know some people are disillusioned uh, because I think there's an expectation. Like it's one of those things, right? When they do a new chapter, they do their chapter each year. You get one thing or another. And last
Mhm.
year, I think it was antiquities. I think the year before that, it was a new class, the necromancer. Um, and so I think people were hanging out for another class, a new class. But as someone who generally doesn't make multiple characters, I don't care too much for a new class, and so new systems I'm about. Um, yeah, I think it's a good system. I think it launches. Yeah, it launches like start of next month. With Blackwood, you have to own Blackwood, which I think is probably the only thing I really don't like about the system. I don't think. Uh, yeah, it's one of those like one of those ones where I'm never too sure because they'll send me the game, so I'm not 100% certain on how it's supposed to work. But I think even if you've got ESO Plus, you still have to buy Blackwood. I think you get it cheaper. But yeah, you still have to buy Blackwood, which I just don't necessarily agree with. I feel like if you got Plus, you should get Blackwood,
Mhm.
right? I should probably fucking know this, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe. Let's have a fucking quick look. Yeah, no, it doesn't include the latest chapter, just all the dungeon DLC and stuff. Um, ESO Plus, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. All right. Cool.
But
Um.
if you're into ESO, I think Blackwood's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
and I
is.
do think it's a game that works playing on your own, like playing solo, which is odd for an MMO, but whatever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of content
Whatever.
coming out for that game quite regularly. So.
Yeah.
Um. It's got a big community. All right, let's keep going. That was ESO Online. Next up, we've got SnowRunner, which is a game I've played a little bit of. It came out last night, I think, on Game Pass. This has
Yep.
been out for about a year now on just other systems, but this one's on Game Pass on PC and consoles. So if you want to check it out, you can if you have Game Pass. It's basically a driving simulator, very loosely simulator. It's one of those simulator games, right, where you're driving a vehicle or vehicles in an off-road sort of setting for most of it.
Like
In
the
this,
Q-op of driving,
yeah, it's goofy.
right? Like,
Eh,
yeah,
Like there's a
like
lot of
you're
simulator
paying
games
way more
out.
attention to like the nitty-gritty of how your wheels turn than
Mm,
you ever would in any other situation in your life. You
yeah.
just like the in other games, these are things that just sort of happen. I'm just going based off my time with Mud Runner or whatever it's called. But yeah, you're like acutely aware of what all four tires are doing at any one time,
Mm,
and it feels weird to be so focused on like, yeah, so laser focused on that as a specific thing
right.
in a game. But that's
Yeah.
the deal.
Well, like you look at a game like a Forza, I would consider that more of like a racing simulator. Like there's different types of simulator style games. This is a bit more on the goofy end type thing where it
Yeah,
does take like it's not like a silly game, but you're
yeah,
a bit more arcadey because you're sort of set in these different towns and situations where you start off very basic with like a pickup truck or a ute if you want to be in Australia. But it's set in, I think it's set in, well, at least the levels I'm playing in are in like North America. Um, and you're given like these different types of tasks that you need to go and do, and the vehicles that you're in. Um, Handle like absolute shit. Like you're on an actual road and it feels like you're driving extremely slow. Um, but
yeah.
the idea is that I'm on this road and all of a sudden there is there's something wrong with the road in front of me. It could be like a rock slide has happened or water has fallen over from this lake and flooded the road in front of you. And like, can I go over that? Will I flood my engine? Or there's a detour sign over here and I can go through that, but it's on mud. And will I make it through there in this thing that I'm in? And so you go off road into the mud and you've got to worry about getting stuck. Um, or like navigating the surface that you're on so that you can actually get past it. And there's like uh, gears you're trying to maneuver through with your car, like putting it into a lower gear to make sure that you've got enough like revs to get through a certain section, or initiating like an all-wheel drive system or four-wheel drive system. If you do get stuck in the mud, you've got like on the pickup truck, you've got like a wrench that you can, or a wench, uh, that you can
A
attach
winch.
from your car to
A
like
wench
anchor.
is a lusty barmaid, I believe. A winch is what you would use to drag yourself out of the mud.
Yeah, wench.
Yeah,
That's what I
wench.
said.
Okay, okay, it's a wench. Okay, my bad.
uh, you can like there's like anchor points that you can attach from your car to other surfaces around you in a radius. So like you can attach it to a tree and then pull yourself out of that area while accelerating, and that'll get you unstuck out of the mud if you've got that ability to do so. But also you've got to like pay attention to the certain things that you are anchoring onto, and like, oh, this tree is definitely not strong enough. I'm going to pull this tree over, type thing. Um,
Yeah,
and so it's about navigating the things around you, and in this banged up sort of play area that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like it's there to, it's a puzzle game, right? It's trying to
yeah,
throw all these different challenges and hazards at you, and you need to try and go, all right, well, how do I solve this in this particular thing that I'm in? Um, on top of that, you're navigating the area, but also doing missions or contracts in the game. It could be something like the very first one in the tutorial was take these planks of wood in your truck and deliver them to this bridge. And the bridge is not completed; they're still constructing it. So you take the wood over there, and then they need steel, and so you then drive off, and you're slowly maneuvering this area. You eventually get the steel, and you come back, and you've dropped it off, and now hey, the bridge is completed. They've built it, and now it opens up like a new section of the map, and you go in there, and search around for new jobs and that sort of thing. It's got like a Far Cry style um, outpost system, like watchtowers, where you can drive up to them and you hit the button and he like flies around and does like a loop. Um, the
All
camera
right.
and it reveals like the area around you and new things that are uh, in that vicinity. So it could be new missions or garages and that sort of stuff. And
All right.
yeah, you're basically just driving around unlocking different types of vehicles. I think there's like 40 that I've sort of seen in the menus, ranging from very small, like a pickup truck type thing, to large semi trailers. Um, and you use these vehicles to like, I'm doing a mission that I just completed where it was like, take this trailer, which was full of, I think it was wood, um, to the farm. And so I drove it down to the farm and had to go through like a bunch of mud and a rock slide and that sort of stuff. And you get to the end of the mission or the contract, and you get experience points that levels up your driver tar, and also you get some cash as well, which you can use to buy new vehicles, but also upgrade your existing ones as well to change things like suspension or buy new tires on them or upgrade your engine, because every car in this game handles like a fucking boat. Um, yeah, and it's like a puzzle simulation. Weird. Here's a bunch of weird things you got to try and solve, and you're in a truck that handles like shit. Good luck. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I know there's a bunch of these games that have sort of come out, uh,
Yeah.
and people really enjoy them, and it sort of fits into that same bucket for me as like a hard space shipbreaker, the type of game that I can fire up and just throw on a podcast, and I don't need to like really be 100% focused on the things that are going on like audio wise. Like I can kind of just listen to something and have a bit of fun while it's sort of going. So,
Or
so
at least you know, like, you can afford to be less focused
hmm,
until you have to be super focused, right?
right. Like I can't play a game like Dead by Daylight and have a podcast on, because
Yeah.
audio is such a huge element of that game. Or I probably couldn't do it for like Hell Let Loose or Call of Duty, or like if I'm
Yeah.
playing Mass Effect, like because it's just such a, I need to be listening. Like it's not like there's a big
Yeah.
story focus on this thing, so I can play these
Yeah.
types of games. I even chuck like a Monster Train or something in, like the card deck building games. There's just certain games that you can play while you're doing other things as well, watching basketball or watching sports on TV.
Yeah.
And this is one of those perfect games that I can be like, all right, I need to listen to a podcast for next 2 hours. Um, let's chuck on this other game that is currently available on Game Pass, and so that sort of stuff is really cool. It seems like it's a fun game. There looks like there's a bunch of content. Like there's tons of different areas that you can go to. Uh, each area possibly, like I don't know, but it looks like it maybe has some sort of theme to it. So I just um, opened up the second location that you can go to, and that is more snow focused. And so you are unlocking like garages, um, and then taking those vehicles to the garage, loading them into the garage so that you can move them to another like zone, and then you can go into that zone and then take, all right, I'm going to go do some missions over here. And I think it's about sort of like unlocking different vehicles and then figuring out like what vehicles you need in certain areas to sort of complete a contract, in order to get more money or level up your character and that sort of thing. um, and there's a few other things like time. I think there are like time sensitive missions as well. I haven't really dove into any of those yet, but it seems pretty fully. realize like there's a lot seems to be a lot there. There's meat there. I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
um, the game has sort of taught me everything that it needs to. Like the tutorial is pretty quick. It's it's a couple of go from here to here. And it does that a couple of times. It's like, hey, that's the game. Good luck.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
now, just figure it out for yourself. Like you'll be able to get new contracts, and as you, I guess, get bigger and bigger types of vehicles, that's when the challenge starts to come in, and it's
The
like, all right,
challenge increases.
now you've
Yeah.
got a semi trailer on the back. Good luck with that. Right, like you need to reverse that into this thing and kind of learn how reversing a trailer into a small area and how that behaves, and that's where the challenge of that part comes into it. So um yeah, it seems pretty cool. Runs fine, I guess, for me. Like I'm not having any weird issues. I'm sort of just playing on controller. Just
Yeah.
works fine.
Makes sense, I think. Yeah. I think that you'd go controller, right, as opposed to keyboard and mouse, unless you had like the full steering wheel set up.
Which it does have for this game.
You would
It
assume.
has that whole system in there, so that's cool for people that
Yeah.
are keen on that thing. And I think it's got
Yeah.
multiplayer. I feel like it's got multiplayer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm interested in checking out. I want to check out the multiplayer for sure.
Right,
Because
because
that
there's a
sounds like it'd
game
be
you
fucking
guys are playing
hilarious.
recently, right? Or was it this one?
Uh,
I felt like I
don't,
saw
I
videos
haven't
of
played
like
it.
Heath and Drew playing something.
Yeah, I think, and Morkai was saying in the Discord that he was playing with those dudes. So yeah,
Uh,
hopefully it's got crossplay between same platform crossplay. I can't believe that is a phrase that has to exist. But
right, yeah,
hopefully the Game Pass version works with the Steam version
it
or
doesn't.
Epic version or whatever they've got it on.
It
It doesn't.
doesn't. No, no. Here's an update from yesterday. It says, "We hear you, runners. Crossplay for the new platforms is in the works. The team is
Oh my
currently
god.
prioritizing crossplay between EGS and Steam, with more coming later this year. Sorry, with more
See,
coming later."
that's so fucked.
Hmm.
That that is so. At least like you know, the guys who already have it on another platform could still, if they have this is the same problem we have with Wreckfest. Like they
Mhm.
could get it on Game Pass, provided they've got Game Pass. But then they'd have to get Game Pass, I suppose.
Yeah,
It's just that's so shitty.
it is, right?
Ugh, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
What a situation. Anyway,
Anyway, yeah, I might jump back in and keep playing that. It just when I get some time.
yep,
Seems cool though. So
definitely keen to check it out.
yeah,
Like
um,
multiplayer.
that SnowRunner, as I said, it's available on Game Pass if you have Game Pass. Otherwise, it's on those other platforms we just mentioned. So check it out. Um, we've got two more here. We've got a Deathloop. You've had a preview of this.
Yes. So I got into a hands-off preview session for Deathloop. I didn't get to get my hands on it, unfortunately. I would
Nobody did.
obviously far prefer playing it, but yeah, for now, all they're doing is showing it off hands. It's a cool fucking game. It's a cool looking game. I'm very in. Uh, I think we've been pretty upfront that we're fans of Arcane's games on this podcast when they work, anyway. And yeah, I think this is looking like they've taken. It looks to me like they've taken Dishonored and they've used Dishonored as a platform to create this crazy time loop game.
Mhm.
Because the animations for how he like stabs people in the back and stuff like that, that it all looks very Dishonored, and he can
So
like
the same sort of
blink.
aesthetic.
Yeah, and yeah, it's got that art style. He can blink places, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely got that vibe to it. But I'm about it, right? Taking the Dishonored as a base and then turning into something into something completely different. I wouldn't have like if this was a Dishonored game. I think it'd almost work. Although I like the '60s vibe that they're going for as well. So I think that works. Yeah, like I can actually see if you told me that this game started its life because you've got your two characters whose names I can't remember. You're this one dude, and he's going like around this island. Um, so that's the main character, whose name is Luke. You've looked it up. Tell us.
I I don't know. Colt?
No, I thought I thought you were going to look it up. Cult.
No,
That's it. Cult. Um,
that's what I just
it is
said.
cult. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, motherfucker. Um, so you got Cult,
Yep.
and he's roaming around uh the island, like he's the main character, the protagonist, and then you got Juliana, who is one of the visionaries, and she is actually aware that Colt is in a time loop, which I think is quite interesting. It's always more interesting when more people are in the loop, and she is trying to stop Colt. And if you told me that this started its life uh, as the main character from Dishonored, whose name I also can't remember because
Uh,
I'm fucking nailing it today. Uh, and
I'll look that up.
Juliana was the princess.
Corvo.
Hey, no, nothing. Princess, no. Anyway, if you told me that this started his life as a Dishonored game with Corvo as the main character and the princess is the Juliana character, I'd totally believe you. I would not be surprised at all. It sort of makes sense to me, but anyway, it's not. And it's got this '60s vibe, and you're stuck on this island. You can go to 4 different locations, and the idea is like 4 different locations. You do it at different times, so you're stuck in this one day, but you're able to manage where you go during that day and at what time and all that kind of stuff. And there's um, a lot going on there
Hmm.
because it's going like this is why I wound up playing Hitman, actually, because it's got that same sort of. That's why I was trying to find those levels with the time pressure, where you're trying to make everything happen at the right time in the right sequence of events, because it's sort of that's what this game is. It has that vibe. It has like a
Like you always
there's a
returning, or return. What's the word?
Um, yeah, no, it does have a bit of a roguelike vibe to it as well, which I like. You know, I love my roguelike games. But yeah, the idea that you're trying to create this perfect situation takes something that I think they always did quite well in Dishonored, and just jacks it up to the next level, which is that the best runs of Dishonored were the ones where you had everything work out perfectly, and like they weren't necessarily the most fun, but it exhibited a level of mastery that always felt good. And that, I think, the time loop concept allows you to have both. You can have your fun days, and you can have those days where have a run at making everything work perfect. And I think that's cool. And I think it's looking like it's doing a good job of it. I'm really interested in how the multiplayer is going to go, because it's got invasions, right? Um,
Yeah.
one player plays Juliana, and the other player continues to play Colt. So someone can come into your game as Juliana, or she can be an AI. And the way that they're balancing it is Colt has a sort of like almost like I don't know, the ability to live when he'll die during a day, but he can sort of like come back
Hmm.
a couple of times each day. Like when he dies, it's not he can die multiple times a day, basically. Um, Juliana doesn't have that luxury, but she is obviously still the hunter, and she's got that advantage of being able to like find him while he's doing other things. And so there's a bit of an interplay there in that, technically Colt should be able to pick the battleground where he takes on Juliana, whereas Juliana, if she has enough patience, can wait Colt out if she knows where he's going to go to and ambush him. I think that's really interesting. I love that idea. I love invasion mechanics in games. Um, I am intrigued as to whether or not it's going to have crossplay, and I couldn't get a fucking answer on it during this preview session, which annoyed the shit out of me. I think it's going to be pretty important because I think if you do have crossplay, I mean, unless the auto aim is ridiculous, PC players are going to have a huge fucking advantage. Just That's just how it goes,
Hmm.
and so I think they're going to have to manage that quite carefully. But we'll have to wait and see how they go. Because yeah, they wouldn't answer me when I asked, which annoyed me.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's a killer looking game. I'm extremely excited to play it. It's one of those things where you definitely, I think, you definitely need to get your fucking hands on it to get um a real sense of it. But yeah, it I don't know. It's just I'm pumped. It's left to the top of my list, or second to the top of my list of games I'm excited about for this year. Obviously, the top of my list is Battlefield, but yeah, Deathloop is looking fucking rad, man. Yeah, and obviously, woo, Invasion multiplayer. So it's coming
Hmm.
out September. Um, yeah, I can't wait. Just everything they're doing in it, it's just got this real slick sense to it. Like they've got a really defined aesthetic that makes it feel almost. It reminds me of No One Lives Forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And like a mashup of that and Dishonored, which yeah, bring it on. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, man, sounds cool.
hopefully I get some hands-on time.
I think the most interesting thing about it is going to be the invasion system, like how that's going to sort of
Yeah.
work in terms of like, is it just you want to play multiplayer and so you just invade people constantly, or is there like some sort of matchmaking involved of like skill levels, like how far people in are there,
Yeah.
like am I going to be able to jump in there day one and just fucking belt people because I've been playing, like I finished the entire thing, as I don't know, it's sort of interesting. And then
My real hope is if they do review code, they have the invasion servers turned on so I can invade game journos. That's my
yeah,
dream.
it says here that you can switch it on or off, um,
Mm.
and that if it's off, then it'll be controlled by the computer.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were talking about that. You can also turn it so it's friends only.
Okay.
So friends only invading. Um, which I mean, I'm totally into that. If anyone on my friends list wants to invade me, I'm all about it. That's your mistake, my friend. One thing I did not find out is whether or not there are stakes for Juliana. Like, are there stakes for a player to invade?
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be a big thing as well. Like as if hopefully they don't like because there's reward in itself in the disruption of another player's game, right? So I think there has to be stakes for playing as Juliana, even if they're just small, like Dark Souls. You know, you could lose. You could lose stuff in Dark Souls, but again, you got to dictate when you were doing it, so the stakes were lower. Anyway, yeah, yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. All right.
Yes.
Was it a long demo? Was it how
Like half
half
an
an hour?
hour of gameplay. They went through like the start of the game, the very first loop. The one of the things they were talking about is that like you cannot like you can't you will die. It's part of the game that Colt dies, but they do think that you could probably, outside of the moments when you have to die for narrative reasons, they think that you can probably get through the entire thing without dying once, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, they've taken that into account, and stuff like that. So they went through the first loop, and then they went through a specific assassination, and sort of showed off the many ways that you can, like, you've got to like people are wearing masks, and you got to determine who they are, based on like these clues from the environment, and then work out how you're going to blap them and stuff like that. And you can sort of you could just shoot them, but you can also like find more creative ways to kill them. And yeah, it's there's a lot going into it. There's a lot going on there, which is rad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. That sounds cool. Yeah, it's the same. So it's the same team that worked on, like you said, Dishonored and Dishonored 2. The creative director on Deathloop is the same designer from Dishonored 2. So if you kind of like that style of game, this is probably definitely going to be your type of thing. I don't think. Is it Harvey Smith? Is he still around? I can never remember. Raphael was the one that left, right?
No. Yeah. Oh, maybe. I don't think Harvey's on this game though.
Right. He's probably doing something else. Prey 2.
I think so.
Or Dishonored 3.
Prey 2 too.
Maybe. All right. Cool. Let's get going
Cool.
then. Got one more on the list, which is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Big game for this week. Sold a bucket load. It looks like it was the #1 game out of the UK for the charts this week.
Cool.
Knocked off. What was the last game we talked about? Fuck. Returnal? Might have knocked off Returnal. Can't remember. Resident Evil. Started with an R. I knew that.
Right.
Anyway, Mass Effect Legendary is a remastered version of the original trilogy, which started back in, was it 2008?
Really? No.
I think it was about 2008.
Surely
2007.
not.
2007. It was before that. Yep.
Jesus.
And so,
Oh.
going back now, I got into Mass Effect quite late. I don't think I even played Mass Effect 2 on. I didn't play Mass Effect 2 on launch. Mass Effect 2 I played after it came out in, I think it was the Christmas break, like December, January, around that period. Because I remember coming back from that break and saying that if I had played it, it would have been in my top 5 of the year, because it was that good. And I don't remember if you did as well. I feel like we were maybe just late on this one. Anyway, I was a big fan of Mass Effect 2. I really enjoyed that game quite a lot. And 3 obviously let down a lot of people with that story. But I'd never played the original Mass Effect, so I was kind of keen to jump into this one and check it out. Basically, this is, like I said, it's a remastered version. They've gone in, updated a bunch of the assets from like player models to environments, upgrading like things to do with the lighting. I think a couple of like quality of life changes and that sort of thing. Uh,
Yep.
and then the obvious stuff on consoles like 4K resolution and up the frame rate and that sort of thing. On PC, I would say that it's a bad port. Um, it
Oh,
doesn't really
okay.
give you a lot of those nitty gritty options that you can jump in there and tinker around with. There's some basic stuff like frame rate caps and um, that sort of stuff, but it's not like really detailed changing like anti-aliasing, changing graphical settings. Like I want to have this stuff on high or medium, ultra. In saying that, I have a 2080 and I've got it on 4K resolution and I'm 144 frames most of the time.
Damn, nice.
Most of the time. But this is a 2007 game. um,
True.
it definitely it looks good. Like there's parts of it. Character models look great. Um, environments are quite sparse in terms of you compare it with a current gen game. Obviously, there's going to be a big difference there. But I think where the game really shines is its storytelling. It's always been about storytelling in those games,
Yeah.
and it still holds up really well. Um, it's got all the voice acting in there. The biggest downfall of the original Mass Effect game is the combat. It doesn't hold up at all.
Yep.
But it's not good.
Yeah.
It's extremely hard to go in there and play that game with that combat style. Um, like you
And
compare
that's
it,
and that's better. You're playing the improved version.
yeah, but I don't think
Like
they've really
it's
touched up the combat or anything like that. Have
I
they?
know that like I've been reading, they definitely like fixed up a bunch of like the issues that the combat had. Like you the sniper no longer fucking goes all over
Yeah,
the fucking show like it used to, and all that kind of stuff. Like I've seen like it's definitely better. You're getting a better version of the
right.
combat, which
I
is the
think
crazy
that in
part.
terms of the combat mechanics, I think they've tweaked a bunch of the things like certain weapons being unlocked and like just giving you everything from the get go. But I don't think they've touched like the cover based system and things like
Right.
that because it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's
That's pretty core to the experience.
yeah, and you know looking at the cover based system, it's hard to compare. Like, obviously, that was again we're talking a 2007 game, and the pinnacle of cover based shooters was Gears of War, right? They're the ones that really came
Yeah.
in and defined how to do
Yep.
shooting. And Gears of War was a little bit before Mass Effect, not a whole lot, like a year or something like that. And so it's um, it's a little bit hard to jump in there and play it because it does feel dated. You can
Yeah.
see what they were going for. Um, it's like a snap based mechanic as opposed to like I'm going up to this wall and pressing
Yeah.
A to hide behind it. It's very much like, oh, am I on this wall? Yes, and then he'll duck behind it and use that as cover. And there's there's your all your abilities, and they feel a little bit like not quite right. Like you bring up the wheel and time slows down, and you want to shoot something at like a bolt at somebody, and it just doesn't. You're not really sure if you're aiming at the right thing or if it's going to hit them. Um, and so a lot of that stuff feels very dated. So
Yep.
I played a couple of hours, went around. It's very like slow pace. Like there's a bit of action at the start, but then it throws you into the Citadel, and you're doing like um, on the Citadel missions and talking to people. Very Star Trek like focus, where Star Trek was a in the early days it wasn't really an action TV show. It was very diplomatic and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and it felt like a bit of that at the start there.
Politicking.
Hmm. And you're getting all your squad members in pretty quickly within the first like 4 or 5 hours. Meeting up with Garrus and that sort of stuff. And so like you can see the foundation that is there, but for me it just didn't feel quite right. And so I bailed on it and went to Mass Effect 2, and
Right.
it's a big improvement. Like
Yeah.
I'm playing that right now. I spent a lot of time in it, and just like the simple things of they got the cover mechanic right. It definitely like Mass Effect 2 feels like a what did we say? So like 2010 game. It feels
Yep.
like it's like a 11-year-old game, but I can still play it, and it still feels good. It's a little bit outdated, but I aim at someone, I use one of my abilities, and it feels like I'm going to hit them, and I do hit them, and all my spells and powers, not spells, all my bionic powers are working the way that I would expect them to do when I shoot at somebody. And it feels like all those things are connecting, and combining different types of abilities is working really well as I'm ducking behind cover and popping out and shooting them. And like, it just works. It's great. So I'm having a much better time with the combat in two. And it comes with the DLC and all that sort of stuff. So I'm getting a chance to play through some of that content, which I never did. I played a bit of the DLC, like the Shadow Broker stuff, and I think there was one more. But this has a bunch of other packs in there that were released as well, which I'm getting to play through. Some of that stuff that just does not, like, I'm playing it and I'm like, I don't remember this at all. And then I look it up. I'm like, oh, this is a DLC pack. It's so um, that stuff is really handy to jump in and check out. So
Yeah, that's probably what has me the most interested, I think,
mm,
is it's the DLC stuff because I didn't play any of it. I mean,
yeah,
I was I was in it for the contained story of the series, so yeah.
right. Um, yeah, and so like I'm enjoying two a lot more than I am with my
Yeah.
experience with three. As someone who has not played the original game and was like, I want to jump in and sort of see what it's about. It's
Yep.
very I think it's a nostalgia game, right? It's for the people that really enjoyed that first game and want to jump in and play it again. But
Yep.
feel like it's kind of a bit harder if you're in it, um, and you are as sort of a bit iffy about combat as me, because it's rough.
Yeah.
It is hard. um,
Yeah.
but two feels great, so I'm digging that. Jumping in, meeting all those characters again. There's a couple of things in there that is a little bit um, tedious, like the scanning of planets. That is, I remember that being like a really interesting mechanic back in the day. I still think it is, but it gets like there's just so many of them, and like you're getting so many resources at this point, um, that it's just like it just feels like it's too much of it, and it's too slow. Like it needs to be sped up a little bit or something. But there's so much there. There's just remind you of how good that game was, and the
Yeah.
storytelling is top notch stuff. Um, so yeah, man, I think it's a you know if you're interested in going back and playing it, there's definitely a lot of good stuff there. I don't know if I'll jump into three. I'm kind of interested to jump into three at some stage. I guess we'll see how much time I've got and whether or not I finish this, because I've spent a bunch of time in it already.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, 12 hours or something so far. And if I do finish it, I think I might jump in and check out three just to see like the contrast between what they did to change the combat again and
I
how
reckon the
that's
combat was better in 3, if I recall correctly.
yeah. I mean that'd make sense, right? Um,
Yeah.
improving that sort of thing, but
And they had a whole multiplayer component to it, so
right, yeah, they had the oh man, what was it called? I don't even remember. Something about like the resistance and your
yeah.
like resistance meter had to be at a certain point, and that tied into the multiplayer, and it tied into the uh was it the companion app as well? Was there a
But yeah, there
companion
was a
app?
companion app. Yeah, I'm
And
pretty
like
sure. Yeah.
so like you're because you're fighting was it the Reapers? I think they're called, and
Yep.
that you're like getting these points or like loyalty bonus or some shit, and that was tying into all these other components. Like you go play multiplayer, and then you get points for that, and eventually, anyway, my point is that those things aren't around anymore, and so I don't know how that affects that game. Any like
Yeah,
what they've
exactly.
done to change it. Um, anyway, But I would expect the combat to be better. And then I know we talked about it, but I don't know if I ever went back and played the what do they call it, a director's cut or something, or ultimate edition when they changed the ending of that game.
Oh right, yeah. I don't think. Yeah, I didn't go back.
Hmm.
I think we talked about it on our podcast on the spoiler cast,
Hmm.
which I couldn't find, by the way. Um,
You couldn't find it.
no.
Oh,
Um, I think we talked about it, and I think we just watched it online. I don't think it was that big a difference.
right, yeah.
I don't think they did all that much anyway. So
Right.
yeah,
Anyway, yeah, I'm digging it. Like, I'm having fun with it. Like I said, one is a bit cautious of that one. Two definitely, I think two holds up still to this day. Um,
yeah,
the one because of combat, it's just hard to digest, but two feels like a competent game that is very much playable. There's some intricacies about like the AI is not really great, and there's a bit of wonkiness with like not being able to switch shoulders when you're behind cover and things like that. At least I don't think you can because the I can't. I don't know. There's nowhere for me to check my buttons, so um, just things like that. The kind of shooters have evolved so far that you got to be like, oh
yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's not really there. There's no mini map. I mean, there is a mini map, but I've got to press a button to bring it up, and that's kind of tedious in the middle of combat and things like that. So,
What
yeah,
has worse cover shooting, Outriders or Mass Effect?
Mass Effect.
Are you sure though? It's close. You had to think about it. You
Outriders.
paused. You paused for a second.
That's the
That's the thing.
lag. That is the lag,
Nah,
you dickhead. I
nah.
was
You
on it.
paused to think about it. You're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Outriders was very bad. It was a
Outriders
terrible
is
game.
fantastic. I think they sold 3 million copies or something. They saw today, 3.5
Wow,
million
that's
copies,
awesome.
and
Two
it
and a
was
half million of them were refunded. That's crazy.
Square Enix's biggest game, bigger than Avengers. Uh, anyway,
Well,
um,
that at least makes sense.
yeah. This is a review code as well. I didn't pay for this, just as a
Okay,
heads up. Um,
right.
so yeah, that's out now. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Just be cautious. Like I said, the PC port is not very great. I've had to do weird shit with like editing my config file to get 4K resolution working because it won't.
What?
Anytime I try and change my resolution, it will
Yeah.
it shits itself and like goes back to default. And like it could be everybody that's having this problem, but there's threads on uh discussion forums about how to fix it, and had to go into like ini files and uh change a couple
How
commands in
annoying.
a couple of different files, and eventually I like it's working now, but that's a huge, yeah, hopefully they patch that and fix it. What was the other thing I was going to mention about the PC port being shit? Oh yeah, EA, is it called EA Desktop? Um, is fucking garbage. The
It is.
beta, I don't know what it is. It's some sort of does it tie into Game Pass or something like that? Like, what is EA Desktop? I've got it installed. I don't know why I installed it. I think it was because of a Xbox game.
You
What
reckon?
was it? What was it? It was something. Um, Anyway, my default installs folder for EA Desktop is my, I don't know, let's say it's my F drive or my
Sure.
G drive, where I store all my games. And I downloaded it, um, got up the next day, and I couldn't find it. Like it said it wasn't finished, but all right, whatever. So I started
Yeah.
downloading it again. It finished, and then I jumped in, and after I realized like my resolution isn't working, like I want to bump this thing up to 4K. How do I do that? I went down this giant hole of trying to figure that out. People had sort of solved it, and they were like, "You got to change the INI file," and it's like it'll be in this folder. And I went into the folder. I'm like, "Where is my folder? It's not here."
Yeah.
Anyway, it installed it on my C drive in like a fucking
That's hilarious.
folder. So that's super frustrating because I don't know, like it literally says like F drive slash EA games, and it's on my C drive in some other folder that I don't like, program file or something. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. Piece of shit.
Yeah,
Um, anyway, EA desktop is bad. So there you go. But
it
that
is.
is Mass Effect Legendary Edition out now. There you go. And that's the games for this week. It's a couple of them.
It's all them games.
Yep. Should we get through this news real quick
Let's
and
do it.
then
Let's
get on
do it.
out of here? So, first up, we have some PlayStation 5 news in relation to The Last of Us Part 2. This is out now. It is a upgrade patch, which brings The Last of Us Part 2 to 60 targeted frames per second, improved loading times. They've also done something with the resolution. I don't know what it is yet. I haven't really looked into it.
All right.
Um, I don't know if it's 4K or like some sort of other 4K style thing with it. But anyway, it says improved resolution. Um, and that's available now. It's out right now. If you want to go check out The Last of Us Part 2 on PlayStation 5, I'm going to go check it out. It sounds like they've done an awesome job on it. I checked out the Digital Foundry review analysis of it this morning.
Oh yeah.
The thing that got me when they released the like, this is what we're doing for the patch, it was the 60 targeted FPS. I was like, oh man, this is going to be not like, that's a word that you kind of put in there to be like, it's not really
Yeah.
60, but we hope it's 60.
Yeah.
And at 60, like Digital Foundry played it for a long time.
Yeah.
They said they've played most of the game, and the only place where it dropped was this one specific spot in the game where they had
Yeah.
issues in on the PlayStation 4 version, which also had very weird problems. And it's like a couple of meters, this weird spot, and they said
Right.
it's the same thing there. Otherwise, they went to the spots that they were having performance issues with on the PlayStation 4. In particularly, it was around water areas, so when you're in your
Yeah.
boat, all that sort of stuff. And on the PlayStation 4, it was very minor frame drops. It was like 2 frames that it was dropping. And then these spots on the PlayStation 5 are now flawless at 60. So it seems like they've done a really good job of having it be like it's hitting 60 constantly, except for this one spot in the 12 hours that they tested it on. So
Yeah.
it seems pretty great. The load times, if you recall, in The Last of Us Part 2, it was just the initial I'm firing up the game where you would have to load into it. That used to take about a minute 30. They've cut it down to about 45 seconds at this point. Still taking some time. Apparently, it's got to do with the APIs on the PlayStation 5 and just the way it works. So, yeah, it's still a 50% improvement. And
Yeah.
like I said, the resolution I'm not sure on at this stage. I don't know if you've had a chance to look into it at all.
Couldn't see anything that clarified beyond what you'd said. So no.
Yeah, I don't know if they're doing some weird scaling or if it's like a checkerboard thing or what
Yeah.
is going on. But it looks really sweet at 60. I'm very keen to jump in and check out how the gameplay sort of has improved because the Digital Foundry review said that it's the shooting feels a lot better. The one thing they noted is that the it's got a cinematic look to it, The Last of Us Part 2, and they haven't really taken into account the improved frame rate, and so the it maybe looks a bit too smooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
the motion blur isn't quite hasn't changed enough to sort of have that same impact, or the shutter speed on the camera hasn't been affected, and so um, that could be something that gets improved on. They like Sony said this is an initial patch and there's more to come. What that means, I don't know. I assume that's multiplayer, but I also don't know
Okay.
what that means for the PlayStation 5 improvements. Are we going to get some weird shit in there like changes to lighting or I don't know, something, improved textures or who knows? Could be like that's still the best looking game on PlayStation 4. And so for them to go in and spend more time on it would be really interesting. But yeah, looks sweet. Looks great.
Yeah, awesome.
Right. Next up, we've got a new game announcement. 505's Games confirmed that Ghostrunner 2 is in development from the
Cool.
same studio that created Ghostrunner, which was a cyberpunk style puzzle game where you are sort of like a ninja, cyber ninja that would run along walls and attack enemies. And it was very much like a clearing an area, trying not to get hit because everything would kill you one shot, and a lot of traversal puzzle style
First
elements.
person puzzle platforming.
Yeah, very very quick. Ran amazing on PC. Took advantage of a lot of Nvidia's technology that they're using right now, like ray tracing and DLSS. And it's a game that I was very uh, surprised about. I had a lot of fun with it, so it's good to hear that the
Yep.
second
I've
one.
got it installed.
Yeah, second one is in
Yeah,
development. They said it's the original game sold 600,000 units. So I guess that was enough for them to, it's an indie
cool.
game, so probably did
Yeah.
pretty good. It's up there, getting up there with NHL 21. So
It's
yeah,
it's yeah, less prone to making me rage, so
right.
well
I
done.
wouldn't expect this for another couple of years though. Maybe 2 years at least. We'll see what happens. But that's cool
Yep.
that they're getting another shot at a second game because I thought it was very cool. All right. The last piece we've got here is DC today announced that an animated Injustice movie is in the works. This will be one of their. They do a lot of like direct to video style
Yep.
DC films, like a ton in Batman, lots of Superman stuff, which are generally
Yeah.
like generally pretty good in terms of like they tell interesting stories. Like they look at
They do like the elsewhere stuff, like the one shots and stuff, the Red Sun and Killing Joke and stuff like that.
yeah,
Those self-contained graphic novels
they
based
do like
on
Red
popular
Hood and things
characters.
like that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and they're generally like self-contained stories, but at the same time leaning into like those characters. They generally get some of those people back to reprise those roles. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're good. They're entertaining to watch. So this is going to be one of those, which is the for people that aren't aware, Injustice is it spawned off of NetherRealm Studios' take on what happened if Superman was the bad guy. Uh, and so it looks at pitting all those
Or went
DC
deep.
characters together and having them fight each other and doing a really cool take that spawned a comic book series by Tom Taylor, which lasted. I don't think he's writing those anymore, but
Right.
it's basically kept going and it got really successful. It was like one of the most successful comic books for a while at one point. For DC, and so it really took off. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
obviously spawned another sequel for Injustice, which we talked about recently. I wasn't a didn't really like what the story was doing there, but I'm
Yeah.
interested to
Yeah.
see DC's take on that universe, and then maybe even just like if they're retelling that story or if it's going to be set in the future of stuff that's already happened. It's going to be like, how would you go about telling that? Would you start at the beginning?
Yeah, I would. I would basically the first series of the comic
Yeah.
is I would just follow that 100%. I think that that is generally something they've always done a pretty good job of, like sticking pretty close. Like I remember they made a few minor changes to Red Sun if I recall correctly, but
Hmm.
otherwise it was pretty much on the money. And I think that's the best way to go about it because that I don't know like the comic was supplemental to the game, but the comic I felt did a better job than the. I think the game had to make some concessions
Right.
because it was a game, and the comic never did. So yeah, uh, I think they just follow that. I didn't. I dropped off that uh, comic after the first series, but
Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
dropped off it after we lost access to our free comics at
To the DC
DC.
press account. Yeah,
I dropped off
that was
all of those. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm keen to see what they do with this. Just how fucking R-rated they go as well, because
oh yeah.
there's some dark stuff in in those
It's
storylines, and I think that NetherRealm, because of how violent that series or that series of games they've made are, like they've got a sort
mm,
of background in Mortal Kombat. It obviously didn't go that violent, but they were doing some stuff in there that was like the way that Superman turns bad is pretty. It's up there. It's pretty graphic. So
yep.
yeah. All right.
Cool.
Hey, speaking of that, I finished not Injustice, Invincible. Last two episodes are so good,
Oh, nice.
really good.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of what happens if Superman turns bad, yeah, absolutely
Spoiler alert.
recommend it. What do you mean? It's the theme of the series. It's in the fucking first episode.
After the credits.
Yeah, too bad. Um, all right, that is podcast. We got no questions this week, so keep them coming if you want. We'll read them out. But
Would you like questions?
well, yeah, we can get out of here. So you can find us on iTunes, Android, Windows Store, Spotify, YouTube, all the places you get podcasts from. We are under the Gap or the GA podcast. Please rate and review the show if you have a moment. It helps other people find us. If you would like to send us questions, you can go to our Discord page, thegapodcast.com/Discord. Jump in there, leave us questions. There's all sorts of things happening this week in the general chat. There's people talking about movies for this week. I saw, was it Morkai? I saw Spiral, I think. He was talking about
Oh
that.
yeah.
I went and saw that as well over the last week. I thought it was all right. It was good. It may be the second best Saw film that I've seen, but they're not very
Second
good
best.
films anyway. So that's not
Is the
saying
first
I'm.
one the best one?
I think the first one is maybe the best one, just because it's so out there and it's an Australian film.
There is that.
That yeah, it's good. But Spiral's good. I still enjoyed it. It was very predictable. Fucking hell, holy shit.
Okay.
But anyway, you can jump in the Discord page, talk about all sorts of things on there. You can go to our social media, facebook.com/GA podcast, twitter.com/GA podcast. You can check out our podcast in video form over on our YouTube page, thegapodcast.com/YouTube. You can also go to our website, thegapodcast.com. It's got links to all those things we just talked about, including past episodes of the show and other bits and pieces. What'd you work on this week on the podcast website, Job? What'd you put up there?
It's called Inflation in the Battlefield Moment Economy, which I think is a bit of a weird, I don't know, it's a weird title, but it's for a weird concept. Battlefield moments are those moments in a Battlefield game where you're like, holy shit.
Hmm.
I'm gonna remember that forever. And it's something that they've tried to, generate for years as a concept. But I think they've been going about it the wrong way, and I just sort of tried to break down why I thought they were going about it the wrong way. And why Hell Let Loose is sort of doing it well. I wanted the whole fucking plan with this one was that it was going to, sort of be timed alongside the Battlefield 6 announcement, but
Next
they
month.
fucking dicked me on that one. So yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't know. Next month, I didn't want to wait. I'm trying to keep a pretty regular schedule to these videos, so I didn't want to fucking delay it any more than I had to. I had a bunch of work on last week that
Sure.
gets this one up the wall, but yeah. I think it's good. It's got some good, like the video itself. So you can read the script on the podcast website, or you can watch the video on my YouTube, Joey Jojo. I think the video's got some good clips. I recorded a bit of footage from Battlefield 4 as well, which I reinstalled. I had
That's
a
why
bit
you
of
were
a
in there.
to that, yes. I tried to play Battlefield 3 using Venice Unleashed, which is a mod that sort of divorces it from needing the Battlefield 3 master servers, but it's extremely difficult to get a game, unfortunately. So yeah, couldn't do that. But yeah, anyway, check that out. I think it's pretty good, and Hell Let Loose is yeah, a lot of fun as always. So some good
Nice.
stuff in there.
Yeah, cool. All right, so you can go to thejapodcast.com and check that out. You can also, if you'd like to support the website, you can go to patreon.com/GAPodcast, become a recurring member. That helps us pay the bills, keep the podcast website running. So thank you to everyone that does that every month. We really appreciate your support.
Sorry.
Have you got, where can people find you on social media, Joab? Anything else you want to pimp out while you're here?
Yeah, Joby Jojo on Twitter. That's about it. Yeah, I don't think I've got all that much to pimp out apart from that one thing.
All right. You can find me twitter.com/Luke Lawrie, and that is it for this week. When are you back from your bed? What is going on?
From my trip up north, Tuesday, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Trying games in.
We'll get some games in. We've got next week Biomutant, right? We can talk about that.
We can finally talk about Biomutant. I can't wait.
Yep. And I think there's some other stuff out next week that I can't. Subnautica's out now. Maybe you should check that out.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get to time. Anyway, that is it. Thank you everyone for listening to the show, and we'll catch you all next week. See ya.